Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good
I hope
evening.
you all had a very good day today. Warm welcome to you all to this webinar, How We EI. I'm Meghna, Business Development Manager at Radical Edge Learning Consultants. I'm delighted to be your host today. We are excited to bring you this insightful session focused on emotional intelligence. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce our three distinguished guest speakers, each bringing a wealth of experience and a unique perspective to today's conversation. Andrea Jayathilaka. Andrea is a seasoned people development specialist with over 20 years of experience, including 12 years of coaching leaders across career stages. She serves as a regional director for South Asia at Coach Masters Academy and is a ICF accredited trainer. Her coaching empowers individuals and teams through clarity, emotional intelligence, and lasting impact. Welcome, Andrea. S. Vasudevan. Vasu has worked in corporate world for over 23 years and in the space of learning, consulting, and coaching over the last 2 decades. He is the founder, owner of a passion consultancy focused on facilitating leadership, thinking, behavior, and action. Welcome, Vasu.
Thank you.
Shushma Bantia. Shushma is an award-winning leadership coach and emotional intelligence practitioner with an impressive 45 years of experience. She is the professional certified coach accredited by ICF, was honored as one of the Asia's top coaching pioneers at the Asia Global Leadership Summit. Welcome, Shushma.
Thank you, and welcome all.
Yeah, so we're truly honored to have such an accomplished panel with us today and look forward to have a rich and engaging conversations. Yeah, so to start off with, I would want Vasu to answer this question. What is emotional intelligence all about?
Thank you for inviting me over, Meghna, and a very warm good evening to my colleagues uh, from Genos, and also a warm welcome to the people who have joined in as of now. Uh, Before I talk about emotional intelligence, what it's all about, I thought it would be a very good idea to hear from the audience what they think emotional intelligence is all about. So may I request Andy to post the poll so that we can get an idea of what people think emotional intelligence is all about. Over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Vasu. Welcome, everyone. And I've just put in the Menti link onto the chat box. So we would love to invite you all to click on the link and access the Menti and poll in your answer according to your understanding. What is emotional intelligence all about? Lovely. So we have some responses coming.
Great.
And I'm just going to hold it for a moment so that the others can also get on the poll. Okay, so if you've just joined in, I'm just putting the Menti link back again in the chat. And the question is your understanding of what emotional intelligence is all about. Let me just bring up the poll. I think we have a few responses coming in. Okay. Interesting. We have a very sound audience with a good understanding of what emotional intelligence is. I love it. I think it's a buzzword today, and we all get to see different forms of emotional intelligence. Yeah. Interesting, Vasu, right?
Yeah, okay. Is the poll over, Andy? So they can.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. I mean, it's spot on, 100% right.
I know.
It's all about how you manage your emotions and those of others. Uh, just to add to that, I think the most important thing to understand about emotional intelligence is very different from being emotional. When you're emotional, the emotion takes center stage. and drives your actions, your behavior, your performance, everything. For instance, if you're angry, you might react and say something silly, right? That's being emotional. But emotional intelligence is all about considering a proper response and responding. So here the response takes center stage. So if you're angry, you might like to pause and say, I'd like to discuss it later. Or you might just cool down for a few seconds and then come back and say, let's have a conversation over this, right? That's emotional intelligence in very simple terms, right? So the key difference is emotions taking center stage and response taking center stage. That's really basically what emotional intelligence is all about. Right. Andy and Sushma, would you like to add to what I said? Any other perspective to this?
I'll let Andy go first. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, so I love what you said, Vasu, and I think something that came to my mind is when we say emotional intelligence, how far are we able to really recognize our emotions? And for me, I think that's probably the most interesting piece of what emotional intelligence is all about. The literacy we have about emotions. Are we able to really be literate? Do we have a linguistic? Do we have a language around emotions? Personally, I have had to kind of challenge myself to learn what really my emotions are and to have to build this linguistic. So yeah, I think I that's the perspective that I'd like to kind of reflect and invite everyone on the call today also to reflect what's the literacy level that you have when you think of emotions and naming your emotions. What about you, Sushma?
Yeah. So in agreement with whatever you all have said, and it is, really separate from emotion, because very often people confuse it and say, oh, somebody who cries, is very emotional and, and it is not, emotional intelligence is not about that. You know, I'm not in this thing. I am control of my emotions just because I'm not crying. No, that's not what emotional intelligence is really about. So what is it about? Let's go further and it's looking at it. Emotional intelligence is about really being aware of your own emotions, being able to regulate it, and then being aware of others' emotions and how sensitive are you to what's happening around you, and managing social interactions. And a huge thing that came up for me, at least early, I mean, almost 30, 40 years, 30 years prior to this, because I also didn't know what it was all about, right? So when I looked at all these aspects of it, what came up and a surprise to me was when I read Daniel Coleman's research that what gives people success, that 65% is all about emotional intelligence. And only 25% is about IQ at mid and senior levels in any corporate. And that I think was such an eye opener for me that yes, it's important, technical competence, but it is actually emotional intelligence which really helps you succeed as a leader. So thank you for that wonderful question,
Wow.
Meghna.
Wow, it's so nice to hear from you all. Okay, connecting to that, I would also want to know, do you think emotional intelligence is important? And tell me why. And also, you can add on to that question, say, what is the essential skills for the future? Maybe Vasu can take it.
Uh, yeah, I think emotional intelligence is very important. But to answer your question, it's important to understand a shift in the context which is occurring, right? There's a big shift in the context. The era of command and control, follow me, let's climb the hill, is dying fast. It's fading away. And the era of psychological comfort, inclusion, diversity, flexibility, freedom has already set in, right? Now, with this kind of a shift in the context, emotional intelligence becomes extremely important because emotional intelligence focuses on behaviors that actually meet the needs of the current context. So that is why emotional intelligence is so important. And also because I think emotional intelligence shows you up in very good light, and it creates a lot of connect with people. People feel comfortable, you're accessible, And that is the need of the hour. And that is why emotional intelligence is very, very important. As far as future skills are concerned, of course, there are a lot of skills which are required, right, from AI and things like that. There are technological skills. That's one aspect of it. On the softer side, I think emotional intelligence ranks pretty high up in the picking order. And also other skills like influencing skills and communication skills. Now, the interesting thing is even influencing and communication skills require a high level of EI, right? We have a high level of EI, you're good at influencing, you're good at communication, you're good at collaboration, and so many other skills, right? So EI is, if you ask me really, is a foundation skill which is required in the coming years. That's my take on that. I would like to
Great.
hear what Sushma and Andy have to say about that.
Yes. I have um, uh, a lot more questions to ask. So, so we will keep everybody engaged.
Okay.
So, Andy, this question is for you. What are the challenges faced when you talk to your clients about emotional intelligence?
Okay, thanks for that question, Meghna. I think, okay, so I'll be very raw and blunt. I think something that I hear very often in the corporate context is that, emotional intelligence is a fluffy thing. You have to be soft, but that doesn't work in the corporate world. And I think this is the first myth that we need to really work with. And I love this conversation because I think the more we get into the conversation, emotional intelligence shows up everywhere. And I always think that at the heart of people is emotions, and that impacts how they think, and how they think impacts really how they behave and perform. And this is probably the conversation that we need to have in organizations. So this is one challenge, Meghna. And what I also see is that very recently, in my interactions, it's just that we don't speak about the emotions, and we always try to solve things with logic. Of course, then comes again the challenge that people can't express. So, how do we really build a language, a linguistic, a conversation, and an intelligence to have meaningful dialogue? And I think this is a place that it has been challenging, but I love these places also because it helps you to sit with a client and enjoy um, the challenges they have and help them to probably come out of it as well. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think we'll get the audience engaged with some mentee again.
Sure. Yes, we can do that.
Yes, yes.
So maybe I'll invite everyone to think of. I'm
Yes,
sure when you all deal with people, you will have a memory of a fine person that you interacted with. So I want you to think about a fine person that you interacted with and how did that person make you feel? So the Menti link is on the chat,
yes.
and I'm going to emphasize the word feel. So how did that person make you feel? And it would be interesting to see what kind of thoughts come up. And Vasu, till that comes up, if you have any thoughts, we would love to hear from you as well.
Pardon?
I said, till the Menti comes up, if you would like to share, we would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of challenges which I wanted to share, but I think we'll wait for the Menti poll to be over. But to take off from what Andy said, I think we understand numbers. Do we understand feelings and people? That's a big question. And that's equally important as the world is going forward with the stress levels which are there today. I think understanding feelings and helping people cope with those feelings becomes very, very important. It's just not about understanding numbers.
So I'd like to add to what you're saying, so it was wonderful. And that is, even when I was growing up, we were told, stop crying, stop being emotional.
Yeah.
So, it's sort of equated with that, it's a weakness, it's this. And so, having grown up in those sort of statements around, when we look at emotional intelligence, we think, okay, not crying and, accepting your feelings is negative, you know, which is not true. So
That's very
feelings are
true.
feelings, and all of us as human beings have feelings. And very often we don't even have a feelings vocabulary. If somebody has asked us, how are you feeling? Lot of times people say, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bad, and okay. And that's about where it ends very often. Because somewhere we've not really been educated on what are emotions, what are the feeling words, and a vocabulary for feelings. I think that would be great, as Andy says, no emotional literacy.
Yeah. And Sushma, I'm going to bring up the words because we have
All
some
right.
feeling.
Oh,
Oh,
lovely.
Yeah, wonderful.
lovely.
Thank you.
Inspired, heard, seen, we're honored.
Wow.
Beautiful.
At ease, at ease.
Peace.
Mhm.
Heard,
Yeah,
seen, felt, sense of self.
yes.
Wow.
Honored.
Hmm.
Lovely.
Hmm.
Extremely
Wonderful. Yeah.
insightful response.
So in
Very
the
So
good.
we,
Very
in the
impressive.
same breath, we'll probably take a moment. I'm going to invite you to shake it off, shake off the fine person's memory. Okay. And I want you to now think of, so you'll go back to the same link. Think of a difficult person that you interacted with.
So this is the challenge.
This is the challenge.
I'm,
How did he or she make you feel?
I'm very curious to know the response to this.
So I'll take it off for a moment because if not, we'll be giving away the words, right?
Yes, yes. So we still have people joining in, so I think we can drop.
A lot of people are
You can
joining.
again share the Menti link. Aishwarya, if you can just share the link again.
Yeah, I'm just putting it up in the Menti. So you're going to think of a difficult person you interacted with and how did that person make you feel? Wow. Okay, so we'll hold it on for a few more seconds. Okay.
hmm.
Ooh,
That
Annoyed.
annoyed. That's
yeah,
coming out loud and clear, annoyed.
I can really relate to this
Yeah.
because I had one such boss whom I worked with.
Hmm.
Yeah, irritated,
And what
pity.
and what
Tell,
comes?
tell us your story. Tell us your story, Vasu.
Yeah, I mean, this was the early stages of my career when I was in sales, and we had a boss. We all have morning rituals when you come to the office, right? This boss's morning ritual was come, pick a guy, shred him to pieces, tear him apart, right? Look at his sales report and just make him feel as if he's a worm, right? And I was the youngest of the lot, and I often used to be the victim. And this went on for quite a few months. And it so happened that everybody got completely disoriented. They were not interested. The numbers started dipping. I'm cutting a long story short. Numbers started dipping. It went to the point when most of us would go to a nearby restaurant, have a coffee, and we used to do what we call bulldog bashing. We used to call that boss Bulldog, right? That's the name we gave to him because he was so nasty. And this went on for quite some time, and we didn't have skip meetings and things like that in those days. You couldn't go to HR and complain. If you go to HR, say, go learn to work with your boss, right? And now what happened? Management noticed that the numbers are dipping, the performance is dropping. And so they brought in a change. They themselves brought in a change. And we got a guy who was assertive, but extremely accessible, provided psychological comfort, encouragement, support. And the numbers started climbing sharply after about 4 or 5 months, right? So when you talked about the fine boss, I was relating to the second guy. When you talked about most difficult person, right, are related to the bulldog, right? So this was a actual experience that I've gone through, and I can kind of relate to many of the comments that have come in. I'm able to relate to that. So
Vasu, question for you.
yeah.
Even today, I mean, I'm sure this is so many years ago. So
Mhm.
even when today, as you were speaking about it and you were thinking of it,
Mhm.
what was it doing to you and how were you feeling as you're talking about it?
Well, I would put it this way, Sushma. Let's say that there are two picture frames, and
Mm.
one of them has a caption saying "Wish you was here," and the other one has a caption says, "Thank God he's gone," right? So whenever I think of this first guy, it's the second frame. Thank God he's gone. Whenever I think of the second guy, it's the first frame. Wish he was here. I remember the second one very fondly, and I remember this first one very badly, right? And I think that's really the difference. And I think when we talk about emotional intelligence, I think it's important to understand one thing. We need to be clear as to where we want our pictures to be.
Yeah.
Right? And emotional intelligence helps you to be in the first frame so that
Yeah,
remember you long after you left the organization.
right.
To remember it long. And I think that's really where the relevance of emotional intelligence is in today's world.
Yeah.
Right.
So just for like Meghna, I just add here
Yeah.
that, when I'm looking at this, because with my, when I'm interacting with so many participants in my training programs and everything, and I ask them to think of the same thing, I mean, and sometimes there could be an incident which is like 2 years ago. Okay. And when they are talking about it, I mean, those emotions, whether it is one of, admiration and this is the person I want to be with, the positive emotions or the not so positive emotions. And I go, oh God, I mean, they still get so agitated.
Yeah.
They really feel infuriated at times. "Okay, how could he do this to me? How could he say this to me?" And some of these emotions stay for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking emotional intelligence, being aware and how do you regulate it? Because when those negative emotions stay with you, it really harms you physically, not only emotionally. And it impacts your physical health as well as your emotional health. So it's so important for us to have emotional intelligence. And as Andy would, again, in the green room when we were talking before we actually started this, she was making comments about what's your coping mechanism. Right?
Oh,
So when you have these
please
experiences,
don't
what's
share
your
my
coping
coping mechanism
mechanism?
with anybody.
Sushma, when you were sharing this, I think something that came up to my mind, and I'm just going to share this. And I think the more we are aware of these emotions, and I think that's the gift we have when we study emotional intelligence, we are able to really, in a way, they're all memories, right? So, how do
Mhm.
you understand those memories? And I'm sure if all of us sit, so just yesterday I was working with a father and a son, and the son had such, like, what can I say, memories of anger that he had to really reframe for himself. And I think we have a gift when we are able to learn, and this is where I think all the competencies of emotional intelligence come into play. So, how do we build these muscles? And I think the more we speak about it, while yes, we do get agitated, we have the capacity as human beings to reframe this memory, to kind of, actually, because they're all stored memories. So, how do you really work with that? And I think that's where the interesting work starts. So, it just came up to me because you brought a very important point of how, like, it's a bodily experience, it's embodied in all of us, and we can only help all of ourselves by learning more of it. So I think everyone here has joined the call for that reason, and yeah, we can take the learning forward, I'm sure.
Yes, now that we
Yes.
know a little bit of emotional intelligence, so let's go to the competencies of Genos assessments. Can you just share
Yes.
what are the competencies? Maybe we'll display and maybe you all can just explain. You want to go, Andy, with what are the competencies?
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll speak from the first one itself, and I think I started with that. And my journey in emotional intelligence, I think the most impact I've had is in this place of self-awareness, and even with the leaders I work. So I think a lot of the work we do is to be aware of ourselves, our emotions, to be able to name it and tame it. Because if we are able to name it, we are able to tame it. And I think the more we do that, we are more present. And if we're not able to name it, subconsciously, unconsciously, we can be very disconnected with people, places we're in. Yeah, so I love this competency. Vasu, what's the competency that you are mostly connected with?
Oh, I'm mostly connected with authenticity
Uh,
and positive influence. right?
Yeah.
But I think adding to what you said, Andy, there's something very interesting I want to share with the audience. There's this emotional brain called amygdala, right? If I got that name right, I always keep getting muddled with that name, right? And then there's a logical brain, right?
Mm.
So whenever there's a trigger from outside, right, it touches the emotional brain first. And if it senses a reward, then it passes a message to the logical brain, and then the response is different. If it senses a threat, again it passes to the logical brain, and the uh, response is different. Now, if all of you see at the productive state is when there's a sense of reward, right? And on the unproductive state is when there's a sense of threat, right? So this coping with this reward and threat is what it's all about, and these competencies actually help you to create more reward, more positive emotions. And when I say reward, I'm not talking about monetary rewards. It's about how you make people feel, right? Like I think that Angelo, I keep forgetting that person's name. Maybe Sushma can help me with the name.
Mary Angelo.
Yeah.
Maya
He
Angelou,
said
yeah.
that,
Maya.
whatever you do, it doesn't matter. What I will remember is how you made me feel, right? So
Mm.
more when we say positive emotions, like Andy, you said in the beginning, it's not fluffy, it's not being kind, soft. You can still be firm and still be able to provide that kind of psychological comfort, which makes people move into a positive emotion zone and increase productivity, increase performance, right? And more importantly, increase commitment and engagement in the workplace.
So,
Yes. Shushma, would you like to say pick some
yeah,
competencies?
for me, authenticity is something, and definitely, I mean, all of them are important, but I really value a lot of authenticity. So I think growing up, I saw a fair amount of behavior that was not authentic. So I would see adults and people around me in front of others, they would be so nice and everything. And then the moment that person has left, they start talking something different, you know? And to me, it was like so hypocritical. Why do they do that? You know, it's authenticity is so important. I can understand social niceties, but this was definitely 180 degrees apart. So to me, I think authenticity, how do you say it in a nice manner? It's not about what you're saying, but also how you're saying it. And emotional intelligence, I think, really helps you understand, be sensitive, and deliver your message in a way that it is accepted by the person in front. Because when you're emotionally intelligent, people trust you. And when they trust you, they are more likely to accept what you're saying. Also, that also comes to that positive influence. And, I think I'd just like to say thank you to Narsi and Anjali for the comments in the chat box. Narsi has written, the wound caused by fire will heal within, but not the scar left by the tongue.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tirukural Saint Tiruvallur.
absolutely.
Okay. And Anjali has got a question, I think, which we'll take a little later. She's talking about Gen Z. I think when we come to the Q&A, then we can take that question. I hope,
Yes,
Anjali, that's
we
okay
will.
with you. Yeah.
Yes, we will.
Back to you, Meghna.
Yes, yeah. And Shushma, this question is for you. What's your experience with Genos Emotional Intelligence? And can you talk about its instruments also?
Most definitely. I mean, I am been sold on Genos one emotional intelligence, definitely, and the instruments. The one which I use the maximum is the Genos 360 leadership assessment. I have found it to be absolutely amazing because it is not theoretical. If you really see, when you put up those competencies, the competencies were okay, they're words, it's abstract. What does self awareness mean? What does authenticity mean? But when we actually go into the instrument, each of these competencies has 7 observable behaviors. And that I think is the differentiator between the Genos instrument and others. As an example, I mean, when we're saying behaviors, so for emotional reasoning, consults others in decision making. It is so relatable, you know, reflects on feelings when decision making, makes ethical decisions. I mean, these are so relatable, and you know exactly where the person stands or doesn't stand. And you have something at the end which tells you what you should do or not. And 360 has been amazing, where leaders, once they had taken this instrument and seen the results, knew exactly where the corrective measures had to be made. So I could go on and on, but I think I'll just pause here.
Thank you so much, Shishma. Yes. And Vasu,
Yeah.
you can tell me something about what is unique in Genos that
The most unique
clients would.
thing about the Genos instrument is if you really look at it, a lot of studies on leadership, and I wouldn't use the word leadership, leadership in the sense that people who are supervising teams. But I would like to take it a little bit broader, any executive or any person. There are two things which are very, very important. One is strength and one is warmth, right? So when you're interacting with people, whether at a personal level or a social level, the corporate level as an executive, you need to bring strength and warmth into place. And each of these has several aspects to it. For instance, resilience, right? Showing concern for others and things like that. Now, the beauty of the Genos instrument is breaks this strength and warmth into specific behaviors, like Sushma mentioned, 42 behaviors, right? And all these behaviors, when you practice not all of them, most of them, right, as many as you can, it adds up to the strength and warmth. And it's a kind of it is a process by which you can actually move into the space where you are may not be a leader, but you're thinking and behaving like a leader, right? And that's the beauty of the Genos instrument. There are other aspects of the Genos instrument which are very, very interesting. One, of course, it's extremely easy for the survey to anybody to undertake the survey. Second, of course, it's all digital. That's not a great thing. Most things are digital now. But another key aspect of the Genos instrument is the development tips which are provided for
Yes.
each of the 42 behaviors, right? So you don't have to look outside. You just have to look at that book and say, oh boy, this is where I need to improve. This is a development tip. So let me practice it. Or you
True.
can create your own development tip. There's no bar on that. There's no restriction on that. So it's a very comprehensive, very beautiful survey, and it adds up to this strength and warmth, right? And I think that is why the Genos survey stands out as very, very unique.
Great. Yes. Yeah. So, Andy, I think, we have spoken so much about corporates and, a lot of individuals can use Genos and all that. But do you think people outside corporates or students can use this?
Yeah, I think so, Meghna. I think the very recent change that Genos did with introducing Genos Grow, I think that is something that anyone can use. And I think what I like about the Genos Grow is that it's very conversational. It's not diagnostic, where we're trying to find something, which was a very old way of people development, right? So I think Grow is a very dialogic approach where we can have a conversation with people, and it can be used by anybody. And something that I've started to really support, because I do have a passion to work with youth. And so Genos introduced Genos Life very recently, and I love the language and how Genos Life is set up. So my daughter is currently going through her A levels and kind of stepping into her next phase of career. And the usual dilemma of confusion, right? So she's been going through that. And I allowed her to do the Genos Life, and we're in conversation right now. I can see how much it's helping her to bring clarity by just talking about herself, her interests through the assessment. So I think it's a beautiful way of even like, for university students or, young students at that stage when they have to make that next decision. I think Genos can do many things. Even like So I was telling my daughter, now when you apply for university, just this experience is like a project, right? You're working on yourself and your competencies. You can really talk about this when you even have an interview with your university. So we've been exploring that in many ways, and I think it's a beautiful way. Yeah.
Completely agree with you. Yes, yes. Yes. To go ahead with this, can we play a video where, people understand what emotional intelligence is actually, and maybe we can discuss about that later after the video.
Yeah, definitely. I think I love this clip, so let's,
Yes.
yeah.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's gonna stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever gonna stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
Yeah, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is.
So I think this clip is something I love. It's like a wake-up call that most of the time people around us don't want to fix anything. And all they want is to, again, I'm going to use the feel word. All they want is to feel heard. But of course, because we are standing outside, we always see the logic, right? So how do we keep the logic for later, but really connect with empathy? And it's easy said, and I think empathy is something that we can talk for days about. So are we really able to keep the logic aside, to really be able to listen without jumping to fix? Are we able to emotionally connect? Because I think the practical advice always comes first, right? We know that we are all teachers, preachers, advisors. So, how do you leave that aside and connect? And I think the biggest gift we all offer people around us is the gift of being present. So, and I think emotional intelligence is a lot about that. Yeah, Vasu.
I think there are a lot of Gyan gurus around the world, giving a lot of Gyan and preaching. And I think it's important for us to understand one thing. Sushma calls it facts and feelings. I call it heart and head. But I think we both mean the same. I
Yeah.
think whenever you're interacting, listen to the heart, right? Listen to the emotion first. You can use your head, but at the right time, right? Don't go head first, go heart first, right? Having said that, it's also important for us to understand that some people are extremely logical in their approach. They don't understand heart. So with them, you go head first, not heart first, right? So it has to be tailored to the audience. But I think even the person who is logical, that's his emotion, right? In a way. So what you're doing is actually connecting to his world, which is logic, right? So connecting to other people's world, whether it's logic or emotions, I think is very, very important, and that's a hallmark of a really truly emotionally intelligent person.
Shushma?
Yeah, so this is absolutely amazing, and as I said, heart and head, and what do you do? And the way I would like to just explain it, it is like as human beings, we've got two sides to us, right? The emotional and the rational. And it's a seesaw. So when the emotional side is high, the logical and the rational side is down, right? And this is, you're going back to not even emotional intelligence. This is like age-old wisdom. Go back, go back, go back as far as you can. Grandma always said, no, count 10 when you're angry. Drink a glass of water. What was that? That was nothing but, okay, bring down that emotional side, because when you're emotional and there's an amygdala hijack, as Vasu had already mentioned, we don't know and we regret what we say later on. So it's also when you're dealing with others. A lot of people who deal with customer service, and they're always taught this. Okay, just listen, be calm, keep on nodding your head, don't say anything. And they invariably will say to the person who's the customer who's a little irate, please, sir, sit down. And can I get you water? Can I get you this? What is all that? Just helping that person to come this way. And a huge mistake, as shown in this video, is that when that person is emotional and they want to be heard, they need to vent it out. When we don't give them that opportunity, because we may be outside and our rational side is up. So we're trying to fix or solve and say, this is what happened and this is why this happened. And the person gets more irate. So emotional intelligence is really about helping the emotional side come down. Wait a minute, let the logical, rational side come up, and now solve the problem. So sometimes in a 20-minute conversation, maybe 15 to 18 minutes are just this part and 2 minutes to solve. But it's all about emotional intelligence and empathy. Yeah. So wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
Love it.
Wow.
Love that video.
I know it's it's wonderful to watch such. Um, it's I had just goosebumps watching it.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. Yeah. Sometimes these videos, bring back all the things that we have to come back to ourselves. Yeah, good, nice. Thank you so much for sharing so many things. So we'll take few questions. Please put your questions in the chat box. We will answer it. We already had one. So from
Anjali.
Anjali, yes. As the world
Anjali,
is
would you
changing
like to
around.
unmute?
Yes.
And Anjali, would you like to unmute?
Hello, Sushma ma'am.
Yes, hi Anjali, welcome.
Hi. Yes, Anjali, you can ask your question again.
Right. So as I mentioned in the chat, right, while of course, we keep hearing about emotional intelligence and there are certain things which are, of course, they act as a foundation, but I also feel that emotions or emotional intelligence is something that, it's influenced by a lot of things like our upbringing, cultural nuances, a lot of other things. So now as, things are changing, there's much more exposure around it. Like when we were growing up or even, earlier, let's say, I mean, if I talk about, um, other people in the room. So the way the kind of conditioning they had or the way the parents had the conditioning versus now, it's very different. So what needs to change? Because the base on which we talk about everything that we talk about, in regards to EI is, it's something that's been kind of going on. Of course, it's work in progress, but I do see a lot of change in the landscape, in how people behave, in the way people think. So in that sense, what do you guys see changing in the, let's say, in the next 5 to 10 years as more, younger people resume, senior roles and, kind of leadership roles in the companies? So what needs to change or what will change as per you? Thank you.
So, Vasu, I can see that you're almost about to answer. The answers on your lips.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll hold back. I'll leave the floor. Go ahead. Go ahead, Andy. Yeah.
Maybe I can share something, Anjali, that is very current for me, and it's a current engagement I'm having with one of the companies as well. So we were in discussion about, because I think it's very easy for us to talk about generational difference. And we were like in conversation to curate something meaningful. And so something that we did was we moderated a panel called Gen Connect. And for me, that whole initiative was such a meaningful engagement because I think moving forward, it's about how we keep connecting in different spaces to hear, learn, and listen to each other. And I'm telling you, I moderated the panel, and we had people from different generations speaking there. It felt like all the emotions were active right there in the panel as they were answering the questions and looking at each other's responses. And like it was such an amazing thing to just see it and speak about it, because I remember someone saying like my work colleagues are not my friends, while someone another person said, oh, but my work colleagues were my everything. I went on trips with them, they were my friends. So when we get to see the differences and really share, create those connecting spaces, I think for me, I see more of this needs to happen for us to be able to really understand each other and see why there are differences in hierarchies, how we see it differently. And it's about accepting each other and growing together, because I think otherwise we'll end up being dinosaurs, right? So, how do we constantly challenge ourselves? So, what I loved is the whole piece of connect, and that's something I see us doing more as generations. How do we keep spaces of connection? And I think something I'm seeing also is that even as communities, I see these connections happening, and we
Mhm.
need more of that if we are to really synergize and bring the best out of everything that's happening around the world. So this is a little bit that I'll share. Sushma, I'm going to leave it to you from here. I hope that helps
Okay.
you, Anjali.
Yes, definitely. Okay. So for me, when I'm looking at it and this thing, I think the difference between human beings and machines is the fact that humans have emotions. And no matter what age, if you connect at a heart to heart level, win the heart of the person. And once they're emotionally connected, once they feel psychologically safe, magic happens. So the what I would say is it's not of a generation. Okay, the way I would say with somebody who's 60 or 70-year old, the way I would win the heart is very different than with a younger generation. But the thing is, the way I would have the conversation would be different. So we need to be flexible and adapt to the person in front of us. Can I have a conversation with the person and not expect that that person, for the younger generation, that hierarchy doesn't matter. They've got a point of view. Like, can we just listen? Can we understand their point of view? And then have a dialogue about it. Whereas previously it used to be okay, be obedient. Win heart, be obedient. Now it's slightly different. So I think so long as human beings have emotions and we win the heart, we will build connections and move forward.
Great.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think Anjali
I
is
hope. Yeah. 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 Please, Vas. Please.
trick is Anjali. I mean, uh, we should not stereotype anything. Millennials are like this, Gen Z is like this, baby boomers are like this. I think the stereotyping is to be avoided, right? And I think Andy said something which is very, very nice, accepting the other person. Um, so each generation comes with its own set of values and beliefs, right? Uh, my values and beliefs are very different from my dad's, right? So is my son's. So is going to be my son's kids, right? So this is going to happen over time. Recognizing that and saying that, okay, these are his values. How can I support, help these people, right? And I think getting into their world, understanding their values and dealing with them helps a lot in being able to cope with the changes which are happening, right? And let's not forget one thing: the exposure which is there today is very, very heavy. It's huge, right? So people can get influenced, right? I'm not talking about youngsters alone. Even I've seen elders also getting influenced. I've seen gadget addiction in elders, right? 60, 70-year-olds addicted to gadget. So why should we point a finger at any generation? We need not. It's happening across board, right? So I think the trick is to be able to recognize the difference, accept it gracefully, and learn to deal with it.
Yes, yes, Soundarya, you can unmute and ask.
Hello. So thank you
Hi.
for this wonderful. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
we can.
Okay. So it was such a fruitful conversation early in the morning for us. Um, I have so as we all talk about corporate, I have a very specific question. So three things that came to my mind is as Vasudevan and Andrea, also Sushma was speaking, power, success, and how we emotionally connect to what is success to me and how we bring that as or how we demonstrate all of that we have in our minds um, at workplace and how that has to do with um, me as a person. How am I having all of those thoughts inside me and how am I projecting that, and how that is making an impact towards a person who is in front of me. Because I know we spoke a lot about corporate, but my story is a little different. Whereas I work with kids in a treatment center. So my goal as a person is to help, or not help, support them in bringing behavior regulation. And as we speak, especially when the video was played, it was definitely nail in my forehead too. He's asking, I was asking myself how many times I tried so hard to pull that nail from the kids' heads because they are coming from high traumatized environment and living with us. And then while all of you were talking, even with Anjali's question, when I stepped back and asked myself, what is the most important question that I need to ask myself as I hear you people? The question comes to me is that I'm observing that we in every conversation we tend to feel wanting to have succeed in that conversation when we try to support a person, and that support can that sense of being successful can be a lot of different things. It can be like having power in that conversation, having being a solution create a solution provider can be another success. So here I am submitting this question. How do I, because I do work with young people, helping more younger people like 21, 23, 25-year-old people, helping 12, 13-year-old people. So there's a lot of power struggle, there's a lot of um, communicational gap. In no, I see different levels of stuff. So here I am asking, what is that, or how can I hold a very authentic space to help my colleagues who are of 21 to 25 years old, who hold that wanting to have power in the conversation, number one, wanting to have succeeded in the intervention with the kids, like, pulling that nail consciously, trying to pull the nail through power, forcing your power to pull the nail and not recognizing that is not the success. Did I lay the question properly?
You did, but I'm waiting for Andy and Sushma to respond. I don't want to jump the gun.
Yeah, for me, it's a big question. I also know Soundu in some ways and the work she does. So a few thoughts went on my mind. And I think for me, one thing that came to my mind, Soundu, I'm just going to like share this. Let's see how it lands, right? Um, so beyond what you see, I think there is something called curiosity, and then there is something called wonder. And these two are fields that humanly sometimes we don't access too much because it's so easy that we stay in the space of logic and like seeing the right and the wrong. Um, for me, I think with your colleagues and with your own self, what I thought, if I am in your position, so I kind of second positioned you for a moment to think what will help me if I was in your place. And I think for me, one thing that came to my mind was the curiosity and the wonder that I can really have for my colleagues. Um, and I think, like you said, we all come from different walks of life and we have our own stories and our own meaning for success. So I read something very interesting today on emotional intelligence. And when we use metaphor to describe something, it's called synesthesia. That's the study, and there's a lot of study done around metaphor and the meaning we give to certain things. And I think when you said success, it would be interesting to see what is success for each one of them. So again, I come to a place where we have a conversation and we really explore this to see what really is going on for each one of us. And I think with that, there can be understanding. And I'm going to pause here. I'll let Sushma take the question thereafter.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And your wonderful questions are coming up, right? And very practical, real life situations.
Yeah.
So for me, one is when I was listening to you, something that was landing on me was when we say they're using power or they want power, I'm not sure whether I got that correct. That's a conclusion or a judgment we've reached. But if we ever ask them, I'm sure most of them will say that's not true, right? We've observed something and we've reached a conclusion that they want power. And very often, if something like this happens, I would actually approach people and say, what is it that I can do to support you? What would you like in this situation when people are talking? You know? And sometimes people just say, just listen to me, or, tell me whether I should do this or not. So, they're more receptive. So, being a coach myself and being trained in this, there are times when I have actually just called a friend of mine and said, hey, I just need to talk. Don't say anything, I just want to talk. And there are times when I've said, I'm in a dilemma, I need help. So I need a coach, I want to have a coaching conversation. Or I said, okay, let's just talk, and have a normal conversation. So I'm able to distinguish, but not everybody would. And so from our side, can we approach it and say, what would you like? How can I support you? What exactly would you like from me? And that goes back to that video. All she wanted was to just vent out and say, just listen to me and understand how I'm feeling. Accept that and tell me I'm okay feeling the way I am. After that, we can think about what to do, you know? So that's what I would think about it.
Yeah. Vasu,
Okay.
quickly, we have 2 minutes. Yeah.
Interesting, I want to ask you, when you were talking, everybody was listening. How did you feel about it?
Is there a question for me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
When
sorry.
you were talking, there were about 20 people listening to you patiently. How did you feel about it? When
I
somebody-
think I can connect to what Andy said, the curiosity, what is going to emerge as a question. Yeah.
No, I was asking a different question. When you were talking, when you were asking the question, right? You're framing the question to all of us. Everybody was listening to you patiently, right?
Yes.
So how did that make you feel?
Heard.
You felt heard. You felt good about
Yes.
yourself, right?
Yes.
That's all you need to do, right? Listen patiently, ask questions, and then come to a discussion, right?
Yes.
And I think that's real power, right? That is the real power. The real power lies in being able to listen, ask questions, and find answers. Real power is not winning it all the time, winning the conversation all the time. And that's something which you can cultivate. It's a practice, a skill, right? It's a skill, which is like karate or anything else, right? You can just practice it and get better at it, right? And
You
then
nailed it, Vasu.
That's the nail.
Yes, yeah, he nailed it back.
yeah, so I should thank Andy for playing that video before you asked the question. So I didn't jump into giving a fix to you. Instead, I said, watch out, be careful, right? And I think that's really the trick. And I think the trick is always, like we've discussed over the last 45, 50 minutes, uh, just I'll take about a few seconds, Meghna, before we can wind up.
Yes.
Recently, there was a program on learning mind for an organization, which was co-created, truly co-created. I mean, between us and a very senior person from the L&D domain in the organization. And this senior person from L&D and me were talking about the growth mindset and fixed mindset and things. And he said, this is all poppycock, right? Let's simplify it. And he came up with a beautiful thought saying that it's always about getting better, Vasu. It's never about being the best, being perfect. Get better is what I think we should have as a theme. And I said, makes a lot of sense, right? And we create the Get Better theme and we run the program on that. So it's just about getting better and better every day, little by little, little by little. Don't stress yourself. Just take one thing. Just say, I must listen for a few seconds. You can time it. Say, I'm going to listen for 5 seconds and then I'm going to talk. Then make it 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds, and you're there. It's as simple as that. Okay?
Yes. Thank you so much, Vasu, Andy, and Sushma. It was wonderful. And thank you for taking the time and, sharing your experiences, sharing tips, answering questions. So happy that you all could make it and, share. So we have a gift for all the participants, whoever have joined the audience. We have Genos Grow. It is a 2-week trial offer. Please take that and give us your feedback too on that. Yeah. So thank you. Thanks everyone. So let's
Yeah.
have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Meghna, for being a lovely.
Thank you. Thank
And
you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
colleagues, Andy,
Thank
Andy, and Sushma, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you. Wonderful being on this panel with all of you.
Thanks a
And we
lot.
really appreciate. And here's to emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Anjali.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We stay back.
No.
Yes, we could. We
On-
could.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You're still on live, is it?
We can
Yes.
stop the recording.
You can stop the recording.